Hello everyone, Dom Caps back here with another video on YouTube. It's been a while, I know, but I figured since we're done with the NASCAR season that, it's a good time to, get back into it. And if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, through Steer Clear, I just want everyone on YouTube to know I've started a new podcast about a month and a half ago. We've done 7 episodes so far. All episodes are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's just Steer Clear, so search up Steer Clear, you'll find it. And it's all thanks to Belly Up Racing and Belly Up Sports. Thank you guys for allowing me to do what I do, get these podcasts out there, and provide some content for the NASCAR fans. But without further ado, why you clicked on this video. Here are my 2020 NASCAR Cup Series predictions. I wanted to make them very early while NASCAR was fresh, definitely something I wanted to do, and this is actually my first time doing it this early, so I want to just go into each race. I'll tell you who I think is going to win and why, and then we'll break down the playoffs, how I think it's going to go down, and at the end, I'll predict my champion. So let's get into the Daytona 500. I think the Daytona 500 next year is going to be really good, and I think it's time that we see a first-time Daytona 500 winner, and there's nobody better at the restrictor plates without a 500 than Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski has just been so good at the restrictor plates, especially Talladega. I just think he's due for a win of the Daytona 500, and I think he pulls through next year and opens the season with a victory in the Daytona 500. Then the second race of the season is the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas. I think you got to give it to the Pennzoil car again. I think Joey Logano is going to come out. He's going to want to start the season strong, and he's going to come out, and I think he's going to win Las Vegas, giving Penske a perfect start to the season, going 2 for 2 with Keselowski at Daytona and Logano at Vegas. Then we move into the third race of the season, the Auto Club 400. Kyle Larson, I think, is going to win. Kyle Larson's so good at these big 2-mile ovals. Kyle Larson, that is his type of track, and I think Kyle Larson, you're going to see here later on in the video, Kyle Larson is set to have a big year next year. I think there's just too much, for Kyle Larson to not have a breakout year next year. He did really well this year, making it to the round of 8, but next year, Kyle Larson, look out for him. And then we're going to move on to the Fan Shield 500 at ISM Raceway. Phoenix definitely didn't provide a good race this year. Denny Hamlin did win. It was clutch. That was the only thing good about it. But other than that, the product was really just bad. And I think this is a surprising winner. I think Christopher Bell wins in his 4th career start. He's been so good at ISM Raceway in the Xfinity Series. If it wasn't for a speeding penalty, in the couple weeks ago, he would have won that race pretty, single-handedly. So I think Christopher Bell gets in that 95 car, gets a win for that team, since they're going to have it's basically a 5th Gibbs car. They're going to have all the same notes, all the same information. So no reason to think Christopher Bell won't pull through and win a race next year, and I think ISM Raceway is one of his best chances to do it. Then we'll move on to the Full of Honor Quick Chip 500 at Atlanta. I think this is where Kevin Harvick gets on the board with a win. He's been so good at Atlanta. He should have more than 2 wins that he has there already. He's been so good there over the years. It's hard to pick against Kevin Harvick at Atlanta. It'll be interesting to see how much longer Atlanta goes with before they decide to repave it. And then we'll move on to the Dixie Vodka 400 at Homestead Miami Speedway. First time this track is going to be, in the first quarter of the schedule. Definitely, changes the playing field. Over the past years, it's always come down to the championship contenders, especially the Championship 4, since that format was placed in 2014. It's always come down to one of those guys winning, and everyone else was kind of an afterthought. Now, everyone's on a level playing field, and I think that just opens the door for Kyle Larson to win at Homestead. We've seen over the years Kyle Larson move over, and now this year it's finally time for him to break through and get a win at Homestead. So that would be 2nd win of the year for Kyle Larson. Then we move back out towards the West Coast, and we go to the O'Reilly Auto Parts 500 at Texas. And I think this is another win for Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick has owned this track in the fall, and I think it's time for him to get it in the spring as well. Kevin Harvick looking really strong to start the season. He's going to get his second win of the year at Texas. He's flat out dominant there. Rodney Childers in that 14, they just figure out the setup every time there. Look out for Kevin Harvick to win at Texas. Then we'll move back to we'll get some short track racing. First short track of the year, the Food City 500 at Bristol. I think this one goes to Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, definitely the best driver at Bristol over the years. Him and Kurt have been so good there. And Kyle Busch, what he did last spring was incredible after, getting wrecked early and then coming back and winning that race. I think he repeats that. I don't think he wrecks this time, though. I think he just puts a good old-fashioned whipping on the field, though. I think he'll dominate that race and win. And then we go to the Toyota Owners 400 at Richmond, a day race, Sunday race at Richmond, back to the day race. And I think Kyle Busch goes back to back, the first back-to-back winner of the season. Kyle Busch, he's really good at Richmond. Hard to say anybody else in the field could really keep up with him other than his Joe Gibbs teammates, Martin Truex Jr., Denny Hamlin. But look for Kyle Busch to go back-to-back. Then we go back to the Super Speedway racing, the Geico 500 at Talladega. And this one, I think we see a first-time winner, and it's going to be William Byron in the 24 car. That team has been really good. They really impressed me in 2019, definitely with the addition with Chad Knaus. They looked really strong. I think William Byron's ready to take that next step, become a race winner. And I think the progress is really shown. I think it's almost like Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott didn't win, for 100 starts, and once he got winning, he started winning some more, and he's become the top driver at Hendrick. So look for William Byron to almost follow the footsteps of Chase Elliott getting a win at Talladega. They'll move into the spring Dover race, and this is where I think Martin Truex Jr. gets his first win of the season. I think there'll be a lot of questions surrounding Truex going into this race. Oh, hey, man, it's a little while since Truex gotten a win to start the season. But Dover is a track where he's really good at, his home track. I think Martin Truex Jr. breaks onto the board with a win at Dover. Then we move into the inaugural Martinsville night race in the spring. This is going to be a fun race. Fans have been wanting this for years now. They won a night race at Martinsville, and they're going to get it. And I think this race goes to Denny Hamlin. I think Denny Hamlin, it's been a while since he's won at Martinsville back, 2015. That was the last time he won at Martinsville. And I think Denny Hamlin, as we've seen in the last few fall races, whenever the lights come on, it just seems like Denny Hamlin just kicks it up another notch. Takes it to the next level at Martinsville. And I think, he gets a full race under the lights. I think that just helps Denny Hamlin. And Denny Hamlin will get his first win of the year at Martinsville. Then we move into the NASCAR All-Star race. I think Martin Truex Jr.'s got to be a favorite. I look at Martin Truex Jr. to win the All-Star race and then pull off the double and win the Coke 600 the next week. I think Martin Truex Jr. is just going to take over Charlotte Motor Speedway for 2 weeks, make it his track. And that'll be Martin Truex Jr.'s second win of the season. And I think he'll carry a lot of momentum into the summer. Then we move into the Kansas 400. And I think Kevin Harvick breaks through for another victory. His third of the year, actually. Kevin Harvick gets win number 3 at Kansas. He's looked really good in the spring race the past few years. Just, I don't see anything, no signs of slowing down. And with Harvick, that team having a year now of experience in the Mustang, they're going to figure this whole package out. Kevin Harvick, win number 3 at Kansas. Then we move into the Firekeepers Casino 400 at Michigan. And I think this is another win for Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, man, he's going to have a strong season. I'm telling you, Kyle Larson is setting up for a good season. Michigan, just like Auto Club, he's already got a few wins at Michigan. So just add another one for him, and that'll be his third win of the season. Then we move to some road course racing. The Toyota Save Mart 350 at Sonoma. And this one is going back to Martin Truex Jr. Just the last few years, Martin Truex Jr. has just looked unbeatable at Sonoma, and I don't think that changes. Martin Truex Jr.'s got this new layout. He just whipped the field last year. And I think Martin Truex Jr. makes it 3 in a row at Sonoma. And we go to Chicagoland, where another win for Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson is just due to win at Chicagoland. Finishing second the last 2 years is just not going to sit well in his mouth, and I think he's just due that win. He could have won both races, and he came up short to Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman. I think Chicagoland's attracted owes him. Win number 4 of the year for Kyle Larson. Then we move into the Pocono doubleheader. I think the first race goes to Denny Hamlin. Hamlin looked really good there last time the Cup Series went there. And actually, the next day, the Pocono race 2, I think the guy that finished second to Hamlin last year, Eric Jones. I think Eric Jones gets his first win of the year at the second Pocono race. I think Eric Jones has a strong year. I think, it takes him a while to get into victory lane just with the competition, but I think Eric Jones is going to do a lot better next year than he did, the past couple of years. Then we move to the Big Machine Vodka 400 at the Brickyard. And I think Kyle Busch restores his dominance here. Kyle Busch, I think he puts on a clinic again. Kyle Busch will pick up another win at the Brickyard, and that will be win number 3 for Kyle Busch on the year. Then after that, we go to the Quaker State 400 at Kentucky. Another good race. Hopefully the package provides for some good racing. And I think Brad Keselowski gets back on the board in victories. Hasn't won since the Daytona 500. But Brad Keselowski, another team that really hasn't faded. I think he's going to run, top 5, top 10 all year. And he's finally going to break through at the mile and a half here at Kentucky, a track he's just, historically good at. No one's holding back Brad Keselowski when it comes to Kentucky. And then we move to the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301 at New Hampshire. I think Denny Hamlin, the karma pays off from this year where he didn't move or dump Kevin Harvick on the last lap when he had the faster car. I think Denny Hamlin gets repaid the favor, and he wins at New Hampshire, getting his second win of the season. Definitely not as many wins at this point of the season that he did in 2019, but definitely Denny Hamlin won to look at New Hampshire. Then we go to the Consumers Energy 400 at Michigan. We come back to Michigan, and I believe this one goes to Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott, he's been so strong there in years past, and I think he finally breaks through, gets a win at Michigan, and, pays one back for, the missed restarts, the missed opportunities there in the past. Chase Elliott gets his second win of the season at Michigan. No, actually, sorry, that was his first one of the season. Then his second one of the season comes the next week at the Go Bowling 355 at the Glen. This is Chase Elliott's dominated this track the last couple of years. Look out for Chase Elliott to win his third race at the Glen. Got his first win there back in 2018, won there again in 2019. No reason to see anything different in 2020. Chase Elliott looking strong. He's starting to heat up with 2 races to go until the playoffs. Then we go to the Dry Deed 400 at Dover. First time Dover's outside the playoffs since the creation of the Chase back in 2004. Kevin Harvick, he's going to come back to the Monster, win, and his 4th win of the season comes at Dover. Kevin Harvick, this team is set for the playoffs, and I think they're ready to win Dover again, get back the Monster Mile back to the 4 team. Kevin Harvick wins Dover. Then we look at the final race before the playoffs, the Coke Zero Sugar 400 at Daytona. This is going to be a high-intensity race. People on the bubble, people outside the playoffs. This is their last chance to get into the playoffs, and what better track to try to go win at than Daytona? And this track, I expect a lot of wrecks in this race. A lot of people are going to make desperate moves, especially towards the end of the race. I think it's going to be pandemonium. And I think the last guy standing is going to be Alex Bowman. I think Alex Bowman gets his first win of the year at Daytona. I don't think this is a win where he's outside and he needs the win to get in, but I think he still gets his first win there. He's been pretty good at the restrictor plates. He's made some questionable moves, which gotten him into some trouble. But I think Alex Bowman's set to win, especially with that 88 car. Get the 88 car back into victory lane at the night race at Daytona. Then we'll take a look at the playoff drivers we've got. So in the round of 16, we're going to have Martin Truex Jr. as the 1 seed. Then you got Kevin Harvick as the 2 seed. Kyle Larson as the 3 seed. Kyle Busch the 4 seed. Denny Hamlin the 5 seed. Brad Keselowski the 6 seed. Chase Elliott the 7th seed. Joey Logano, the 8th seed, Eric Jones, the 9th seed, Christopher Bell, the 10th seed, William Byron, the 11th seed, Alex Bowman, the 12th seed, Kurt Busch, the 13th seed, Ryan Blaney, the 14th seed, Jimmie Johnson, in his final year, will make the playoffs as the 15th seed, and rookie Cole Custer will be the last guy to get in on points. He will be 16th on the playoff grid entering the round of 16. Now let's move into the first 3 races of the playoffs in the round of 16. It all starts off with the Southern 500 at Darlington, one of the crown jewel events, and I think this one goes back to Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has been so good there over the years. Before last year, in 2019, he had finished on the lead lap in every start at Darlington until he got caught up in somebody else's mess in turn 4. Denny Hamlin kicks off the playoffs right, and he will advance himself into the round of 12. Then we move on to the Federated Auto Parts 400 at Richmond, and this one goes to Martin Truex Jr., a great short track race. And then, you saw last year the Gibbs guys getting 1, 2, 3, 4. Unfortunately, Eric Jones getting the disqualification for failing post-race tech, which really ultimately knocked him out of the playoffs so early. I think this one's another tight battle. I think you've got the Gibbs guys up there battling all race, and I think Martin Truex Jr. prevails just like he did in the playoff race at Richmond this year in 2019. In the final race, the cutoff race, in the round of 16, we go to the Bass Pro Shops NRA night race at Bristol. The first time Bristol becomes a playoff race, and this is a cutoff race. Elimination race, 4 guys getting cut from the playoffs after this race. Huge race here at Bristol, and I think the dominating season for Kyle Larson continues. He goes and wins at Bristol. Kyle Larson going to have a strong run there, I think, and he gets his first career win at Bristol. And with that, we have to eliminate 4 drivers. And those 4 drivers being eliminated will be the 95 of Christopher Bell, the 1 car of Kurt Busch, the 12 car of Ryan Blaney, and the 41 of Cole Custer, all gone. And that leaves us with 12 drivers remaining in the round of 12. And let's head into those races. In the round of 12, we go to Las Vegas for the South Point 400, and I think Brad Keselowski makes it a Penske sweep at Las Vegas. You had Joey Logano win in the spring. He won the second race of the season at Las Vegas, and now Brad Keselowski locks himself into the round of 8 with a win at Vegas. This has been a troubling round for Brad Keselowski over the last few years. He did get eliminated this year in 2019 after a poor run at Kansas. I think Brad Keselowski breaks through into the round of 8 once again and proves, makes it worthwhile in that last round, because the past couple of years he's kind of been irrelevant towards the end of the season once he gets eliminated. That won't be the case this year. Then we move to the Alabama 500 at Talladega. Going to be a fun race, and I think fan favorite Chase Elliott breaks through again, gets his 3rd win of the season, and locks himself into the round of 8. Chase Elliott definitely not going to be too happy. Definitely not too happy after being 112 points below the cut line in 2019, getting eliminated from the round of 8. But look for Chase Elliott to have a strong run at Talladega. I think he puts on one of those junior-like performances where he basically flat out just dominates the race. He controls the pace, and Chase Elliott goes on to win, locks himself into the round of 8. And then we have the Bank of America Roval 400 at Charlotte Roval. I mean, this is moved up to the round of 12 elimination race as compared to the round of 16 elimination race, and we've seen how desperate people get at the end. We saw with Ryan Newman, Eric Almirola this past season, and I think you got to look at that race being even more desperate with top guys. You're going to have some top guys battling there to try to keep their playoff, hopes alive. And I think Chase Elliott breaks through again. What he did this past year was unbelievable. He had the fastest car, hit the wall in turn 1, came back, drove through the field, and won again, and just won. It's just unreal what he did there. Chase Elliott becoming one of the best road course racers, and I think he goes back-to-back at the Charlotte Roval and in the season. He wins Dega and then the Charlotte Roval, which then means 4 more drivers getting eliminated And I believe those 4 guys are going to be Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin, Eric Jones, and Alex Bowman. And that leaves you with 8 drivers remaining. In the round of 8, you're going to have Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Brad Keselowski, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, William Byron, his first round of 8 appearance, and Jimmie Johnson in the Swan Song season. Jimmie Johnson into the round of 8. Can he do what Jeff Gordon did and get himself into the championship 4? Remember, Jeff Gordon did not win a race before this, so watch out for Jimmie Johnson. I think Jimmie Johnson he's gonna be motivated. I think Jimmie Johnson goes out here. He's gonna make the round of 8. Let's see if he makes the championship 4 like Jeff Gordon did. We start the round of 8 with the Hollywood 400 Casino 400 at Kansas. And I think this one is going to be a Gibbs guy winning, and that's going to be Martin Truex Jr. He's going to do what he did this year with his win at Martinsville. He's going to go into the championship race at ISM Raceway with 2 weeks to prepare the car. We don't know the true speed of Martin Truex Jr. at ISM. We saw in the playoff race before Miami in 2019, they had half the team there. So we don't know the caliber of that car at ISM. It'll definitely be a meaningful race then, but Truex going to win at Kansas. He's come close the last couple of years. I think he's so good at the mile and a half, he's going to win there to get himself into the championship 4. Then we go to the Texas 500 at Texas. I explained how Kevin Harvick was so fast, but now this being Kevin Harvick out of the playoffs, I think this opens the door for Kyle Larson. Kyle Larson, if he had some help from cautions or lack of cautions in 2019 in the playoff race, I think he had a chance to win that race. He figured something out in that outside lane, and I think Kyle Larson is going to be one to watch for here, I think, at Texas. I think he could easily go out there, win that race, and get himself his first ever championship 4 berth. And then the cutoff race coming down to Martinsville, you're going to have guys like Jimmie Johnson, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch all battling for 2 final spots. And I think it just comes down to Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch, you can't imagine a championship 4 without Kyle Busch. And Kyle Busch is going to rekindle some of that Martinsville magic. He's going to win. And with that win, it leaves it down to a points battle between Jimmie Johnson, William Byron, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski. And I think Brad Keselowski gets in on points. This is Brad Keselowski's redemption season from getting eliminated at Kansas after being 20 points up in 2019. And I think Brad Keselowski gets through into the championship 4. So your championship 4 going into ISM will be Martin Truex Jr., Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, and Brad Keselowski. This is going to be a fun race. Hopefully the package is a lot better at ISM and the racing will be good. We'll get a test of it, in the 4th race of the season with the Fan Shield 500 ISM Raceway. And I just think this track, Gibbs has figured it out. And Joe Gibbs Racing having 2 guys. But I just think Kyle Busch is so good at ISM, especially in the last couple seasons. He's been so good there. He had the win in 2018. He finished second to Denny Hamlin in 2019. Kyle Busch, I think he's going to be the first back-to-back champion since Jimmie Johnson won his 5 consecutive. It's going to be hard to stop Kyle Busch next season. He's got so much momentum. Kyle Busch is honestly, his goal is to get to that 7 championships, and Kyle Busch isn't going to waste any years doing it. He's going to get championship number 3 next year in 2020. And end off, start the decade the way he ended it. Ended the decade with a win. It starts the new decade with another championship. Kyle Busch, your 2020 NASCAR Cup Series champion. I just want to thank you guys for listening. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, watching on YouTube, I enjoy this whole NASCAR thing, and I want to keep doing this. And you got to tune in weekly for the Steer Clear podcast on Spotify and not YouTube, and on YouTube. It's going to be on YouTube as well, and Apple Podcasts. Weekly episodes, break it down. During the season, we break down all the races And then at the, in the off season, I'm planning on doing stuff like this, maybe doing some driver profiles, some season reviews for past seasons, maybe reviewing the 2007 season, the 2014 season, and if you guys have any suggestions, just leave them down in the comments. Message me. I'm on Twitter at DomCaps11. You can give me a follow on there, and if you want to ask me anything, I'm free to respond. My DMs are open, so I will respond to any questions you got. And other than that, expect more videos on YouTube. Expect weekly podcasts. And other than that, I thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for watching. And this is Dom Caps, and I will see you guys for the next one.